All right, good morning, guys. Quick sound check. Let me know you can hear me. How you guys doing this morning? Tuesday, August the 6th. And we got a market that's moving. I mean, almost a 100-point overnight range so far for the S&Ps. 90, 89 and a half points so far. It's a pretty decent overnight range so far, I would say. And a ton of volume coming in. Like Perry was talking about there. I mean, 835,000 contracts traded so far just from 6 o'clock open last night until this morning here. And that's a lot of contracts. I mean, there's days where we don't even trade that much. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Sound is good. Perfect. All right, let's get this one started. Take a look at the Forex Factory calendar here real quick. Maybe. Can I have that back? Thank you. Really nothing on the docket for today here. Some JOLTS job openings, 10 a.m. I don't think this is really going to be too much of a factor here. I think the market's just kind of moving on its own here. Really, the only news I think that could actually impact this would be some type of Trump tweet or some type of news coming out of China here, which I don't necessarily see that coming out, intraday here for us. Later tonight, a ton of NZD news here, New Zealand news, official cash rate, all this kind of stuff. Doesn't necessarily matter to me. That'll be at 10 o'clock tonight, so we got some time before that stuff comes out. So let's take a look at where the markets are and kind of where we've been in the overnight session and what we're looking for today. As of right now, we've got overnight lows in place, 27.75, 75s up to 28.65 quarter here in the S&Ps. Excuse me. We got S&Ps up 1.02%, Nasdaq up 1.3%, the Russell up 1.03%, and the Dow up 1.02% as well right here. We're getting a little bit of a pop as I'm speaking at the moment. So decent gap up here across the board for this morning. And the real question is this going to hold in kind of, the area that we're gapping to, or we're going to be able to reverse yesterday's move, kind of all of these things. So we're currently going to be gapping in the S&Ps. And to further that point, we came off 27.85, 75s last night. We pushed through that level by 10 points in the overnight session. And then so far have just, stair-stepped our way to the upside through all levels of what would be support and or resistance on the way up. So you can see we tagged this level first thing when we came down, rallied back, came down, retested it, finally pushed through it. One tick away from tagging these 0775s, pushed through, pulled back, looked like we wanted to go lower. That's a failure to go lower right there. Rallied up, pulled back, and then just took off. And now we're up here into the upper end of these levels up here of 28.52 50s to 28.70 quarters. So what I'm going to be looking at off the rip this morning is we have the blue lines in place, which are going to be off the hourly charts. We have the yellow lines in place, which are going to be off of the 30-minute chart here. And what I'm looking for right now is we're getting awfully close to this 28.70 quarter level here. And what I think we can do is actually rally and test this right off the open. So it's about 10 points here if we were to open right now in the S&Ps for this level to be tagged. If and when we tag that, sorry, excuse me. If and when we tag that level, then we can potentially sell from there back down into 28.52 50s. And then from there, it's just a matter of do we continue to stair step our way lower here or not. If we get above 28.70 quarters, we've got a shot at completely reversing all of yesterday's move here and actually working our way through this gap, kind of up over 28.85s and maybe, kind of target up in towards this 29.1975 level. Now that's going to be a pretty tall order for the markets. There's a couple levels we might trade prior to that, but again, if we can get over these 28.85s, then I think all bets are off there in terms of shorts for the S&Ps. At least that's going to be a reversal of yesterday's action completely, coming off some pretty serious levels down here on lows, and just continuing to be a powerhouse here today already up 1%. S&Ps were down like 107 points yesterday, a really, really big range. So far, we're only up 30 on the day. Now, I say only up 30, but we've had a 90-some point range in the overnight session here. So I like longs over 28.70 quarters here. I like first test of 28.52 50s for longs here. If we start cracking 28.52 50s, then I think at that point, we're going to put ourselves back into kind of a 15-minute downtrend. From there, it'll take a little bit of time for that to kind of set up there. But if that's the case, then I think we continue the trend to the downside and have a shot at actually kind of testing some of these overnight levels again down in through here. If we get above 28.70 quarters, we get confirmation closes above, and we start to continue the trend to the upside above 28.70 quarters, then I think we are good to the long side. Right now, we're smack dab pretty much in the middle of that range, currently trading 28.61 and change here for this morning. So again, first test I think comes up to 28.70s right off the rip, depending on where we open at here. And then that's going to dictate a lot what type of reaction we're able to get out of those 28.70 quarters. Moving over to the NASDAQ here. NASDAQ, same thing. The only difference is NASDAQ gapping up 1.39% here is a little bit stronger. So it's actually clearing this 74.83 level, which would be the same level as the 70 quarter for the S&Ps. This leads me to believe that there's going to be a little bit more of a reaction to the upside off the rip for the NASDAQ. So depending on where we open at here, I think first initial longs off of 74.83s, given the strength that we're seeing, is actually a pretty decent little play. The big thing is there's two things here. One is if we're going to open, if we're going to gap and run here today and we're not going to look back, then the opening print could very well end up setting kind of the low of the day, the first 5 minutes or so, first 10 minutes of the day here. If that's the case and we're able to hold above 74.83s and we're pushing higher, when and if we clear 75.39.75s, which was yesterday's opening print there, you guys can see that on the chart. If and when we clear that level, I think we've got a lot of room to work back into up here. And realistically, I think a good first target on that trade is going to be 76.24s. So we're looking at, basically 140 points or so from 74.83s all the way up to 76.24s. There's a couple little stopping points along the way here. But again, I don't know that that's necessarily going to matter too much. One thing I want to do here, again, is take a look at the weekly charts, kind of see where we're at in terms of that. And right now what we've got here is we're just working our way down. We kind of filled this gap from the large, from the large weekly reversal bar we had there. We filled that gap yesterday, pushed a little bit through it, traded down into overnight lows 72.24 50s. So kind of right down in this area here, and now getting a really nice reaction here. So this weekly bar is going to shift and change a little bit today with the gap up. It's going to basically erase most of this red bar here. And if we can end up the week green back up kind of above these 76.24s, then that's going to be a really nice looking bar on the weekly chart there. So again, that's yet to be seen as to whether or not that's going to happen. But if we're able to today and we're able to hold above 74.83s and push through these 75.39.75s, then we're going to have a really nice looking daily chart there as well. And I don't want to come out and speak too soon about it just yet, because we don't know what the action for today is going to show us here. We can easily reverse, the move that we've seen so far. But if it's going to stay and remain strong, and we are able to close above 75.39.75s on the day, then we could be in for a really nice rally into the rest of this week. Again, I was looking for a bottom somewhere in and around Tuesday, Wednesday, but looking like it might actually end up coming in today. Taking a look at some Nadex strikes here. Nadex is a little bit expensive today, so I'm looking at like the 10 a.m.s, 75.28 up there for 10 a.m. is, $24 here. And, opening print yesterday was 75.39 75s. If we're looking at the 11 a.m.s, they only go up to the 75.21 strike. If we look at the daily, they're going up to 75.48s, with the 75.36s being the closest to that opening print there. Those are trading 35 to 37 bucks right now. So there's a lot of built-in kind of premium in here. 74.88s. Yeah, so even right at the money is a little bit more expensive than normal. And I was noticing that a little bit yesterday as well. So if you are trading Nadex, just be cautious of the spreads there in specifically the Nasdaq is what I'm looking at right now, because they are getting a little bit of juice in these options here. So keep an eye on that. I do think it'll come in a little bit as we start to trade some today. But right now, I think those options are a little bit too expensive to make it a viable trading opportunity, just because we do need a rally about 40 some points or so, actually about 50 some points, in order to hit those 75, 39, 75 levels. So if there's something in Nadex that pops up throughout the day and we can kind of see some of this, volatility, not necessarily, evaporate from these markets, but some of this premium at least come out of Nadex, then I think there's a good opportunity in there for today. We've got a wide enough range. I do think they're going to have to probably reset some of these options or add some new strikes in here for us today, because we're pushing towards the upper end of those available contracts. So that's what I'm looking for there when it comes to Nadex. Overall, I think today is a pretty decent looking day to start off with. We've got a nice gap up. The real question is going to be whether or not this gap is going to hold. I'm undecided completely as to whether, I don't want to flip a coin, so to speak. Basically, I got a 50-50 shot at saying, okay, we're going to go higher or we're going to go lower today, right? But I don't have, a clear direction as to whether or not we actually are going to hold through these levels, or we're going to tag these levels, fade, and maybe retest those lows. I'm inclined to say that I like the long opportunities here a little bit better on the day, at least first thing off the rip. We'll see how the reactions are from those rallies if we are to get them. But keep in mind, we could retest those overnight lows at some point either today or, in fact, going into tomorrow. So the other thing I'm watching here too, which I don't even want to say it just because I don't want it to come true, is we could be due for an inside day here. And an inside day is going to, keep us somewhere in and around this 74.83 level here for the Nasdaq for the majority of the day. I think we can trade down to kind of 74.40 quarters. I think we can trade up a little bit through kind of 7,500 there. We've got overnight highs so far, 74.93 75s. But again, I don't want to say that just yet because I don't want that to come true. I'd like to have some volatility and some expansion of this range. Not that, 250 points in the NASDAQ is, a small range, but it all happened in the overnight session. And we're here for the regular trading hour session that starts at 9:30 when the NYSE bell kicks off. So that's what I'm looking at for this morning here. We'll know a lot more in terms of just overall direction, I think, after today, one way or the other. If we do get a consolidation day, then I think we may have to take 1 or 2 more days for this to decide. But off the rip, I'm going to be looking at longs here in both the NASDAQ and potentially even the Russell. Russell has a small level at 95.70s here. We've got about another minute. I'll cover that one. Russell has a small level here at 95.70s. I think if we can get through that, then we've got a pretty decent shot at a nice pop. And we're currently trading 97.30s here. So I like that trade idea in the Russell as well. Picking your poison here, NASDAQ or Russell, or potentially even the S&Ps, I don't think makes a difference here. I think they're all going to move pretty much in tandem today. Nothing is, really standing out as a leader today. NASDAQ, again, up a little bit more than the rest of the markets, but I don't think there's too much to take from that, considering the Russell is getting through that 95.70 level as well. All right. Well, that's what I got for you guys today. It looks like a fun day. We could see some whippy action again, like we've seen, you know, some short cover rallies. I know Perry was talking about that. If we get some vicious moves one direction or another, you don't want to be caught up in that with size. You know, today's a day where we've got like big targets. So trading 1 and 2 lots is completely fine compared to, you know, normally wanting to trade, you know, say a 3 to 5 lot here. The trades are going to take a little bit more room to work out. So keep that in mind when you're sizing and when you're looking at, you know, pushes through levels and rechecks and things like that. We have a little bit more room we can wiggle with compared to normal, and obviously a very large range coming into today. So thank you guys so much for your time. I'll be back in just a few minutes with everyone in the MLT Discord, going live in there. If you guys want to work with me in there and all of the rest of the MLT team, Perry and everybody else, then there's going to be a link in the description below. Go ahead and click that link, and we'll get you into the MLT Discord, and we'd love to see you guys in there. So take care, trade safe today, guys, and I will see you on the next video.